From as early as the 16th century, it was clear that material interests were more important in founding America than ideological interests. This can be proven through various texts, gestures, and wars throughout history, such as A Brief and True Report, and wars such as the French and Indian War, the Mexican-American War, the Civil War, and others. Although ideological interests were important in helping shape the United States, the amount of greediness and unmoral actions that occur in the span of around 300 years proves undoubtedly that material interests were more important in forming the United States. Thomas Harriot's A Brief and True Report shows the primacy of material goods such as land and riches like gold and silver. In the report, Harriot states that the settlers of Virginia had lost interest when they did not find gold and silver right away, indicating that the sole purpose was for these men to travel to early Virginia was to find material. Although they did not find it, they did not give up the hopes of finding it. Throughout the entire letter, he talks about the riches and how rich the soil is to grow fruits in which they would profit off of, thus only giving more proof of material goods being the main purpose for coming to America. Along with Harriot's report, the French and Indian War showed greed clearly. Both sides wanted to take control of the Ohio River Valley, proving even more so that at this time people were more interested in land and riches than anything else. They wanted to expand their countries and earn themselves and their families more individual wealth. This took place for hundreds of years when the United States was beginning to form. Land was such a necessity for Americans that in 1803, the United States made its biggest purchase of land, known as the Louisiana Purchase, for $15 million, which consisted of 828,000 square miles of land. You would think acquiring that much land would be enough for a newly founded country, but the Mexican-American War shows otherwise. Penn State historian Amy Greenberg said that this was the first war in American history that was fought for greed rather than principle. There was no ideological reason why we were going to war against Mexico. It was plain and simple. The Mexican-American War was fought for no other reason than manifest destiny. Southerners in particular were wanting to expand further out west for more land. The main reason for that being they knew if they didn't expand slavery, then it would die off completely. Slavery also would be considered a material interest, because at the time people thought of African Americans as subhuman or property. Americans, and more specifically Southerners, treated these people terribly because of the way light reflected off their skin. They were so interested in the money that cotton was bringing them, they did not care and justified their unmoral actions by considering African Americans property. President Lincoln knew that he could not do anything at the time being to stop slavery because both sides were so adamant about the issue. In Lincoln's inaugural address, he made it clear that slavery was not to be interfered with in areas in which it existed in the Union. Lincoln had said later that the issue of slavery was to not be brought up for a certain period of time. He said this because he knew that he could not allow the United States to separate any more than it already was. Having had states who already seceded from the Union, the Civil War's primary reason of being fought was because of slavery. There is certainly an undeniable trend that wars and unmoral things are done because of material interest. Throughout history of the United States, it is obvious that the settlers were only interested in material things that benefited themselves and their families. They would fight, kill, and treat people unmorally no matter how wrong it was. The previous examples show significant proof that material interests were the biggest factor in shaping the United States into the country that it is today.